Anything else you're seeing in any different section right there?
I think more recently that was the biggest thing that stuck out to me.
Mm. So, for me, was also reacting to the sober mind right there, because in our Sunday school classes we've been going through First Peter, and another big thing was like sober minded
Mm-hmm.
right there, and how a lot of these decisions are having for us to be sober minded, and we normally think of it as being like you're not drunk and such right there, but also thinking about the different ways your mind can be, I would say, off balance for it right there. We think most people, as we said, like alcohol, possibly if you're on drugs, but I can also think of different other times that you're like think about it, be like, oh, you're in distress right there, and all right there, and that you might not be thinking straight right there, and so because I can think of moments where you're like you can possibly be stressed out, make a decision, and it's not actually going to change your life in the long run because you're just going to be thinking I'm stressed out only like at that time part right there.
Right.
But here it's like, hey, like when you're thinking clearly and such right here, like set your hopes fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So it's one of those things part right there of like when everything is either good, neutral, or bad, like you have to be putting your mind on Jesus right there. It can't be like through the mountains and valleys and such where we would be like, oh, all the times in the valleys we pray to Christ and such, and at the mountaintops we be thanking for the blessings. It's also in the process in between the valleys and mountains, a sober mindedness where things are just like at a middle level right there, that we have to think of Christ and like that part right there.
So yeah, basically make sure you have clarity in all those circumstances of what your main focus is supposed to be.
Yeah.
In a simple way of looking at it.
Yeah. Because there are people who will be like, oh, in like modern times would be like, I signed something in distress right here, and we can be like that is void because it was distress, it was a time of need. And so
so you're saying that it could be useful if they were to start implementing that? Like, are you in your right mind to do this? Okay.
Are you in your right mind when you possibly believe this right here was possibly the music that they were playing in the church was just emotionally pulling at you right there to do it? Or was I can think for a guy would be like, did the music make you possibly feel like brave and such, like you can do anything right there, and you come back afterwards and you're like, nothing's really changed right there? Were you in the right mindset to fully implement it? And sometimes like in those different mindsets you can definitely, it does make life-changing decisions.
Yeah, because I mean at the same time it's like, could it negatively or did it do anything? No. But does that mean that it's an appropriate feeling to have? Like that's part of what, like that's one of the things that I've heard is that worship is also supposed to help you out with, it can also help to bring out the appropriate emotions that maybe you weren't feeling before that actually help you to get through the right thing. And so if it helps you to, in worship, it helps the guy also have that courage that he needs, that was a good thing. I mean, that's maybe a different kind of clarity.
Yeah, but for me it's just like an interesting sort of kind of thought process to look at of like there is a part of like it can bring out emotions that you like to help, but sometimes some people might call it emotional manipulation
Right.
right there to do that, to be like, oh, make you feel sad about yourself right there with the music or the circumstance, or possibly be like in the moment, say you've lost a family member and such right there, to be like, hey, like Jesus and such is here for you, which is like definitely that is true, but some people might look at the sober mind part and be like, they were not in the sober mind part, they were emotionally distressed right there.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can see what you're talking about. I guess the thing I also wonder is, should you have already, were you not in the right emotionals? Were you not right emotionally in the sense of maybe you should have been distressed? Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were being a little too dull emotionally with whatever was going on, and this is actually set you on. Okay, this is the appropriate emotion you should be feeling. So that could be a tricky thing. I mean, it could like just have you go out of whack, or it could actually reorient you to here's the emotion you should be feeling.
Yeah, and I do believe like for it that is like you should have proper emotions, because you should have it if somebody has just died, to be weeping for them. If somebody is happy, like they've got a new job or something like that, you should be happy for them and such right there. But
so at what point is it emotional manipulation?
Yeah, to be because I've met people who made decisions in those emotional, like vulnerable situations and such right there, and have kind of treated it like those situations have to be consistent for people right there, of like breaking down or right there, or constantly having that feeling to make you feel like you are in right relationship with God right there. So that's and then kind of by that push that on to other people. And so that's the part of trying to be like sober mind, to be like, hey, like afterwards to take a step back to look at it, to be like, okay, this was done during this time. Do I believe it? Am I going to act upon it now with a response afterwards in a sober mind right there? And I think that is probably the key part right there, is like the afterthoughts of those probably.
Yeah. Like, so something that comes to my mind of a story I've heard.
A name was mentioned here that did not want to be mentioned, so we're editing it out.
It was either like during, I think it was during college, and he had a class ring, not from college, I don't think, but it was that he graduated high school, and so his mom got him one, and he was in a worship service, and he felt emotional with the whole situation. Felt like, God was, compelling, or not, maybe not. He felt that he felt a certain way that to where whenever they brought the offering plate around, he didn't have anything, but he did have that, and so he put that in there. And then later on, he regretted it because he just felt like it was much more of an emotional thing. It wasn't something that he very much so questioned if it was an appropriate thing to have done. Of course, he was also a little upset with the church because you think that they saw that, they'd start searching around, make sure, okay, do you really know what you just did?
I was like,
so,
how do you get the money for somebody's college or high school ring?
Yeah.
The only option I can think of is you probably pawn it off, which is not, I don't think you should be doing that. I think to
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they could have done something with that, but it was just the fact of, because it was that, and well, like he also he felt bad because his mom had worked really hard to get him that, and so because he was in his emotions, and so he wouldn't think clearly, so he just felt like this is like I give to God, and then later on he was like crap, and he didn't tell her for a long time. He was like he didn't have a heart.
Yeah, it would be like, yeah, I was on a fishing trip and I fell into the lake right there. I would.
Yeah. So that's one of those situations where I can think of that. I wouldn't call it emotional manipulation. Like it wasn't like they were intending on doing it, but he wasn't thinking clearly when he wasn't in his emotions and wasn't thinking clearly, and they did not. He doesn't. Well, I would agree. Didn't think that they handled it appropriately because they should have. When they see that specifically, like okay, let's at least find the person and ask first. Like, are you sure you want to do this? But they never brought it up, so it was like it just feels like a scam.
Yeah.
Because I could also see that they would see it like, oh, apparently God really made me feel like they should do this. So this is the God thing. Like, was it though?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, where there's definitely those people who, like, I've heard people like, oh, somebody has a need right there, and they offer up their car,
right,
and such right there, and that's something I don't want to be kind of like bashing against those people who hear that and make those sort of decisions, because those are definitely moments of blessings and such for it right there. And so church might have thought it was a blessing, but I kind of agree with you. Like the whole part of that is like
suspicious.
Because we like, if someone put their wedding ring in there, wouldn't you be like, okay, what's going on right here?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you see it's a class ring and stuff like that, it's like, okay, it makes complete sense why they did that. Maybe you should have asked them, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially you're younger, not thinking clearly. So,
I mean, probably at that time they could see the year on the ring.
Yeah.
Like, this is somebody who's close and stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be, I'd say, awkward. Some person might think of like, oh, I've had this class ring for 50 years or 20 years, and be like, okay, like maybe it's worth something to some person, but because the church is probably pawning that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what else you would do. That's what I would assume. I don't know what else you would do with it.
Yeah.
So, but it's something you could do. And I could see them seeing that, oh, okay, God compelled someone to do this. So, this is, I was like, maybe you should have asked first, just for a conscience sake.
Because that ring's probably smelted right.
Yeah.
Right now. Like, can he go back to his high school or college to see about getting the ring? I'm pretty sure there could be some
I'm sure that he probably could have gone back to him and say, hey, I did this. Could I get it back? I just wasn't think straight, but I'm pretty sure he just didn't think about it. He's just he just felt bad afterwards what he had done. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So that would fall under that, I think.
The part of making sure the decision for in Christ is set and sober-minded, or your actions after after believing is in that, so you're not manipulated. Because I can also see if those emotions of fear and such, you'd be like, hey, this is not doing so well for me. I'm just going to book out of my faith right here. And for them to be like, hey, look back, back at your life and see hey, the scripture says there's going to be hard times, there is going to be persecution and such right there, so you can take a full look at your faith without just being very loose about your faith
Mm-hmm.
and just booking off like the first time with troubles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that can be a tricky one to help someone navigate through.
Yeah.
I guess at that point you also, because you can feel at that point it's not just that it's hard, it's almost like you can feel betrayed, and so because that's really the emotion you're dealing with, is you feel betrayed by the whole thing if you're going through those difficult times, and so that's where you need someone to hopefully come and give clarity and help you to see it from the right angle.
Okay.
And then also just prayer, because that doesn't even mean that would help them. To try and help them to reason through it, that's not necessarily going to help everyone. Some people are just kind of stuck in the bad state.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there are people who, in the emotional distress right there, would be logic doesn't work, and I can totally understand from a person in distress that you want comfort, you want like sincerity for it in that moment. Logic and reasoning like don't matter as much right there, and for it I would say that's a weakness times of reasoning and logic. There's, in those emotional distress moments, you should see what their fear is, what's hurting them,
right.
because that is where the pain is coming from. See if is there a way to relieve the pain? Is there a way to conquer that fear, and so that you can go to logic and reasoning afterwards, because the logic and reasoning, they have to think of it themselves in the moment. And so if they can look back at that moment and then see like it was relieved, it was taken care of in the moment right there, and you can discuss it afterwards. The key part is talking about it afterwards, because otherwise you're not like fully helping them in the moment of distress, because that thing could come back again, and they have no basis to think of, oh, this is how it is, even if it doesn't work out the same way. I can trust that God has a way for it.
Yeah. I also wonder if it's possible to, when they are in that emotional state, if you could help them to, not through reason, but like if you could help to, with how you were responding to them emotionally, if you can shift their emotion, so that way that you can essentially calm them down. Like, okay, you're in this state, let's bring you over here. And then hopefully in doing that, we can start to, and you being that for a little bit, we can start to talk sense to the situation. Because there's no way that you're going to see sense if you're in a what do you call it? A
distress?
Yeah, when you're in this distressed moment, there's no way you're in this. It's very unlikely you'll see reason with that. And so if they can help to shift your emotion to a more calm one by being that way with you, for kind of going where you're at and then moving you over. Because I mean, there is in a sense emotional manipulation there, but I would see it as more of a healthy thing, because you're not just going to like try and move them. You're also going to be like, okay, now let's figure out why did that happen, type of thing. Let's not. So okay, we're done with that. Let's just move on. No, figure out what's going on there. So, but at least if they're calm, they can hopefully give you a better idea. Okay, here's why this was happening. So
that goes more into the sober mind right there, trying to call it out, make them calm right there.
Right. So that's an actionable thing.
What?
So that's an actionable thing.
Yeah, that's an actual thing right there. Because, yeah, from my own experience in it, I've had like periods of depression right there, and sometimes you just have to ride the wave of depression right there
Right.
and reach out. That's definitely a big thing, is reaching out to get you out of that mindset, because for me, for depression is you have like one thought that like comes in for depression, and you're like, I can combat that with reason, logic right there, and hope in Christ. But then another one comes up, and you're like, okay, I can deal with that with reason, logic, and Christ. Then a third one comes up, and then the other two pile up right there. And now you're trying to battle 3 different thoughts
Right.
or more right there, and just loops into itself right there. You can't fully like reason with one when you're like, I'm trying to go with this third option right here, but then number 1 comes up, and so the third thought has now not defeated right there, or I've not removed it completely, and it's still just waiting right there in the back of my mind. And for it, the part where you have the person go there, they can like put you into a place that's not going into that loop right there. They can, for right there, and that's the first part, like you said, like getting them into a place that's calm, like getting them out
Right.
right there is good for right there. But a big thing is definitely having friends.
Yeah. Don't be alone.
Don't be alone. That's where most of depression and those, like, I would say, that way of distressed mind right there for in depression will lead to.
Right. I don't think for me it's usually like things piling on each other. It for me usually it's one thought that it depends on if there's something that has happened that just makes it an intense thing, and that's what will get me with the depression or whatever. It's just one thought with a certain event that has happened that it's a thought that it can come at different times, but there has to be some sort of event that triggers it that just makes it where just like it sticks, it won't go away. So reason at that point is just like I can reason my way into it.
It's like, I'm seeing this out here, and this is going on in my thoughts right here. This is not good, because practically it feels like a validation of that thought.
Right. Yeah.
There, you need something else to come along and kind of beat out that thought right there, or definitely have you not see the connecting parts right there, maybe.
Right.
I could be completely thinking of this wrong. It goes right there, because for it, people deal with depression in different ways.
Yeah.
There. But I can also, on the flip side of thinking of like where everything's good, like we've talked a lot about like in the valley, but what about like on the mountaintop right there, where it seems like you're getting a lot of blessings and such, to be like, hey, like this is you have this high that's possibly not grounded like in the fact that God's given you a blessing, but more of you're in your highs on the blessing itself right there, to be like, oh, I have this wealth and such, or have this health, and I've just gotten this award, and the blessing is like you're not thinking about Christ right there, but you're thinking about yourself, but you're giving, you say you're giving glory to Christ, but you're more of on your own personal high.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could see that. I could also see it being a type of thing of like you're on a high with these things are going well, and you are um, experience a bunch of blessings, and then out of the blue, something that tends to knock you out will ultimately come and hit you. And it's one of those things like I'm not done with this yet. Don't deal with this yet. It's like it had to come now, and I could see that like tipping you off to being because it's like it's the same old thing, and it's like I was doing just fine. You showed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's again see where that just living on that high and the
Mhm.
hard stuff coming up right there is you were not in a like your mind was more of the blessing is your security right there, and that thing coming up is the part to possibly knock you back down into the sober mind.
right. I could also just see it as even if you are possibly in the right state of mind with it, it's not like you're just necessarily just like staying on the blessing and not in Christ. But at the same time, if this other thing that tends to be an issue for you also pops up, that could be more of like a satanic type of thing where it's the devil using that to distract you. Like that's usually your issue. So he knows how to get you off that focus of Christ. So he'll put that in there. Then also you're distracted like this again, and then it throws you all off.
Yeah. I can see that happening for people, like definitely in ministry. I'm thinking of like sports players and rich people who are like, oh, like the blessings I've had, like the Lord has given this to me and such. It's right there, and they will suddenly, when the hardship happens, their decisions will be like a part where you're questioning what they're doing to be like, I just have to save myself.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. Or they get angry when people question them in like for sports for accomplishment where they should be like going with that accomplishment to be like the Lord gave it to me. If he wants to take it away, should be okay with it. But getting angry, I think, is like not the proper response.
Right.
There, where you're clinging more to the high.
Yeah. Although I could also see that being like it does bring out an attitude in you that needs to be dealt with, and that can also be a type of thing where it's a negative thing, but also that's an area where God is exposing something or whatever has been exposed. He uses that to sanctify. So you're seeing that this being a case like, oh, okay, this actually needs to be worked on. I'm not done with this yet. This is something that God needs to just sanctify and make it to where I am basically living or relying more on Him and stuff like that.
And I could be.
So that's the positive aspect out of it.
I'm thinking more of that, like, it could be definitely more of the trial
Right.
aspect, and I'm just trying to like expand more of the sober-mindedness, and I could be expanding it way too far. There was more of like God's going, I will deal with those who have pride or these things that they're struggling with, and my thought is their mind's not in the right place, and God's like, could be, but it also could be just something I'm working on right there, not part of test of their sober-mindedness.
Right.